Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Flying High on Consciousness podcast. I'm Jill Alana, your host and founder of Jai Incorporated, a company who's deeply devoted to helping you become the victor and creator of your life. I teach and mentor people on the energetics of abundance, manifestation, the journey to sacred union, and soul sovereignty. I'm a facilitator of shamanic healing, shamanic breathwork, quantum energy activations, trauma healing, and coding you to align to your soul's intention. I've worked with people to manifest things varying from getting drafted to the NHL, getting pregnant after being told many times she wouldn't be able to, from almost going bankrupt to having 200K weeks, healing eyesight while this woman was going blind. I also healed my eye. If you haven't caught the story, it's earlier on the podcast in one of the early episodes when I was told I was going to go blind. Manifesting sacred relationships, leaving abusive relationships and starting new lives, building new businesses, and ultimately being the creator of what your soul is deeply desiring. And what your soul is actually here on this planet for. Because you, my beautiful soul, have key codes that only you have and nobody else does for this world. That's what I help people with. I bridge the gap between the quantum woo and the 3D practical application, because what I see working with business owners and people who are deeply spiritual is often people get very trapped in the 3D world, and then they're doing, and they don't do the energy work. They don't do the alignment. They don't do the recoding, the trauma healing that had been holding them back. Or they get so trapped in the woo and the quantum, and they can't actually ground their ideas in 3D. And both are equally as important. So I help bridge this gap so that the practical application can take place with the quantum energetics being in alignment. Thus, the manifestation and the creation is the byproduct of that. We need both, as I said, for the intention to manifest in 3D reality, whether it's wealth, relationship, booking a role, booking a job, creating a business, healing any type of dis-ease in the body. So I'll link my website below. There are some free resources on there as well as this podcast. And my intention is that you start to understand viscerally that you truly are the creator of your life, and you can choose to be the victor instead of the victim. And from that place, the world becomes your oyster. I love you, and without further ado, let's go to the show.
Hello, beautiful. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
I'm so excited for this.
Me too.
Okay, so as everybody is just kind of flowing in and joining us, I just wanted to invite everyone into just a deeper state of presence as we begin this discussion today. So if you're listening to the recording of this, find yourself in a nice comfy space. I'm just going to do a little tune in for us. So as everyone starts to join, just allow yourself to drop into presence wherever that feels best for you. If you are driving, please obviously don't close your eyes for this. But if you are in a safe space to do so, I just invite you to close down your eyes. And just begin to take some nice deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Finding yourself in this present moment, right here, right now. Just attuning your awareness to the body, to this time and space. Allowing yourself to fully arrive to release anything and everything from the external world, allowing yourself to attune to the subtleties within your own being, giving yourself permission to be fully present, asking yourself what presence means to you, and acknowledging that so many of us find ourselves outside of a state of presence in much of what we do. So for this next 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I invite you to deepen into that state of presence, to plant your feet firmly in the floor or the earth beneath you, to allow your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul to soften and to open to receive whatever messages are meant to come through for you at this time. And taking another deep, deep breath in through the nose, filling the lungs and sending the breath all the way down into the belly. And exhaling this breath through the mouth. And as you do so, once again, releasing anything and everything from the external world and allowing yourself to arrive fully here and now. And when you're ready, just gently fluttering your eyes open and coming back to the screen, back to the space. Welcome, everybody. So today, my beautiful soul sister Jill and I are going to chat a little bit about some topics that we are going to be facilitating some seminars and events around at the end of this month. And these are some subjects that both of us feel are very, very, very pertinent in both of our journeys and in the journeys of those that we work with. And so, Jill, do you want to kick us off today with starting with whichever subject we discussed that feels really resonant and at the forefront for you, and then we'll just weave into the space as it feels authentic to do so.
Yeah, firstly, I just want to thank you for that beautiful grounding exercise and presence exercise. I'm so excited for this transmission and to facilitate with you again. Thank you, everybody who's here. Oh, from Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
Love it.
Goodness.
Adding a little feather, by the way, guys. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about a number of things today, and I just want to bring presence firstly to this information. It is an energetic transmission, so you will have shifts listening to it. Now, that being said, where the deep shifts happen.
Oh, Jill, you're cutting out.
Sorry about that. I had a phone call.
That's okay. Where the deep shifts happen is where you cut out.
Yeah, so when the real shifts happen is when you do this work somatically, and that's what we facilitate. And there are a number of modalities. Ironically, the woman who just called me was telling me about talk therapy that wasn't necessarily working. So there's many modalities that are literally just band-aids, okay? So anytime that you're not actually transmuting the trauma and like literally recoding the body, the physical body and the energetic body, which by default recodes the subconscious mind, because the body is a subconscious mind, then you are not going to get lasting transformation. It's impossible. So we can go more into that. So that is, hi, that is what we are facilitating in Calgary at our 2-day event. You can come on 1 or 2 days. It's obviously a better deal if you come for both. These events will literally change your life. And if you can't make it to those, like, please come back and watch this for the information. And when you are ready, we invite you to do these somatic practices with people who are actually trained and know what they're doing. And I'd love to speak a little bit to that when we get into the false light, because there's many people who just all of a sudden decided they wanted to be a practitioner and have like zero training, or a plant medicine facilitator, again, have zero training. And like the dangers of that are so deep. Like people literally almost die. And to be honest, I literally almost died, which is a story for another time. But like, make sure when you're doing somatic practices and work, like the facilitators are really trained. Sarah and I trained together in Sedona. We've both done numerous trainings, and that's where we kind of met before. But this is not something that's like a one day to facilitate. Like it's like a one day course that you took. So just like bringing presence to that, because a number of people that have come to both of us individually who have been further traumatized by practitioners who weren't fully trained is like astonishing. So yeah, I think we should talk firstly about trauma and what happens. So I'll share a few tidbits and then I'll pass it over to you and you can share in your own way, because I know you have a beautiful way of explaining that as you do at ceremonies. So basically, our life, our current life in reality, is a manifestation of all of our thoughts and beliefs. And beliefs are written usually from the age of 0 to 7 with events that happened. And as events happen, especially if they were highly emotional events, in that moment, it's not so much important what actually occurred, but how we perceived it. When we don't fully experience the whole processing of the emotion, aka trauma, when the energy gets trapped in the body, then that event will literally create our entire life and our belief system, the neural pathways in our brain, until we clear it. And how do we clear it? By doing somatic practices. So every single pain that you have in your body is literally just stuck energy. If you have a disease, dis-ease of the body, it's caused by years of stuck energy and literally like filaments of energy that overlay each other and then eventually become a tumor, or eventually become like problems like menstrual problems, or eventually become literally cancer. And this might be triggering to some of you. There's so much science behind this. So any like issue that you're having health wise can be correlated to trauma. This also goes for abundance and relationship. Our beliefs about money and being resourced are directly correlated to our experiences and our coding growing up. Our relationships, our romantic relationships specifically, are directly correlated to what we were modeled and what was coded into our body and DNA from typically the years, actually from conception until 7 are the most prominent. So it's even before you were born, like what was the environment when you were in the womb? I know for myself, I have done so much work around releasing energetically belief systems and like fears before I was even born that my mother had been experiencing when I was in her womb. So do not underestimate the power of this work, because literally your relationships, your financial situation, and your health is a direct reflection of your belief systems and your energy body. So when you clear it from the energy body, in that moment, you have the opportunity to write a new belief, to literally recode your energy. Maybe you have struggled with boundaries. Okay, were boundaries dangerous growing up? Okay, how do I recode that? You can say a boundary, but honestly, saying it doesn't matter so much as like recoding it in the body and being available for certain things. But in order to do that, you first have to release the trauma. If you bypass that, you will find the same situation occurring over and over and over. People will not respect your boundaries over and over and over. You'll be in an abusive relationship. I have a story to tell about that later with a huge transition that happened actually during our shamanic training. because I believed men were dangerous. And so I released that trauma, and all of a sudden that shifted in my reality, and the abusive relationship fell out. And I had a history of them. I had never experienced that after. So yeah, the power of this work is like life changing. We'll share a few stories later of things we've seen during and after ceremonies, like with clients, but I just really wanted to bring presence to that. If you have been in a cycle and you're like, I've been in therapy for 15 years, 10 years, I have been there. And why it's not shifting is because you haven't released it somatically through the body. Oh, thank you, Matt. Matt says, made it. These two together are very powerful.
We love you. Okay, so amazing points. Thank you for bringing all of that to light. I just want to, you kind of identified it at the end of that statement there, but just for anybody who's listening who doesn't know or is not familiar with the term somatic. So somatic processing, somatic experiencing is when we move something out and through the body. So somatic is referring to your body as a whole, but your tissues, your cells, your DNA, that is all part of the somatic system. And that is where trauma is stored. And as Jill was saying, trauma and suppressed emotions, they get stuck in the body, in the soma. And if you don't know my background, I was an ultrasound tech for 7 years. And that actually became a massive reason why I chose this work, is because I witnessed in those 7 years how many people were coming into the hospital, into the clinic, into the OR, presenting with physical ailments, diseases, cancer, all of these specific things that over that period of time, I began to piece together how much of that was correlated with these individuals' history and their trauma. And so everything is related, as Jill was saying, to our childhood and even to that gestational period in the womb. If you had a traumatic birth, or if your mother had a traumatic pregnancy, or if your mother as an individual herself just was not a healed, healthy, whole being while she was carrying you during gestation, that all manifests within the body. And it can be really hard for the mind to comprehend that. But again, as Jill was saying, there's so much scientific research to actually point this out now. And so in our events, in these somatic experiencing processes that we guide through the use of breath work and various modalities that help you actually access these emotions and this trauma within your body, that is where the healing actually occurs. And I'll just name for myself, I spent a great deal of my own healing journey really just trying to source out the information. So I was listening to podcasts, I was reading books, I was doing all the seminars and the courses, and I found myself feeling very empowered by the information, but also at a point where I was like, okay, how can I know so much, but I'm not actually making tangible shifts in my life? And that was when somatic experiencing processes and breath work and all of these modalities came into my life. And that was when the shift started happening like this, is when I actually started doing the things that allowed me to apply the information and transmute that from the psyche into my body and allow my body to actually release the things that had been stuck there from this lifetime, from gestation, and from lifetimes past.
Amen to that. It's like the podcast, personal development, like I've been there and I'm still a podcast junkie, but like you just hit the nail on the head. Yes, my feather. I collect feathers, guys, on my altar. It represents healing, the feather, and miracles. Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because it's like I see so many people who, and I was there, I have been there, like, and sometimes I've still made mistakes, you know, like joining like containers, and it's like information, and I'm like, I joined for the transformation. And I was really reminded this weekend, I went to New York for 3 days of somatic healing with a number of other women. And it was like so powerful. I'm like, I don't need any more information. Like We don't need information, guys. If we want transformation, information is great and it gives us a reason to do it. But there is no way to just get the information and not do the somatic work. So like, I thank you so much for sharing that. So that's why you haven't shifted, or if you're still stuck in, like somebody said, these cycles of trauma around money and relationships stop with me. Yeah. Also like generational trauma with money or with relationships, like how your parents, again, modeled the relationship, or like we have genetic imprints and tags. So if there's been things in the lineage, even if it wasn't your parents, like your grandparents, 7 generations up, we still carry that in our body, and it's still literally unconsciously running our life. And it's great to know what it is, but you don't even need to know what it is if you release it somatically. And if you know what it is and if you don't release it somatically, then you're still going to be stuck in the same cycle. So I love that Star Seed Soul Guide. Thank you so much, Laura, for your comment. Thank you all for your comments. I've been seeing them, but haven't been able to respond.
And I love, Jill, that you brought the abundance and the money piece in, and the relationship piece, and that is coming up in the comments as well, because this is something that is so common in the spirituality industry, is this whole concept of manifestation, right? And we hear all the time to use affirmations in the morning and to journal and to script and to do all these things where we speak into existence and we write into existence, like, I am wealthy, I am attracting X into my life, I am attracting this, I am abundant, etc., etc., etc. But the underlying problem where we're saying and doing these things but not actually seeing tangible results in our life is that we haven't created space within our being, and we haven't cultivated the self-worth that we need to actually attract that. And how do we do that? How do we create capacity to hold the frequencies of abundance and sacred union? Is we release somatically from the body all of the lower vibrational frequencies that are keeping us stuck in those old paradigms and those old ways of being. So manifestation and all those daily affirmations and everything, I'm sorry, but it's not going to do shit for you if you haven't done the somatic work to release the trauma from the body and the psyche, because that will remain there and keep you blocked. And you can say all day long, I'm abundant, I'm a millionaire, I'm attracting my sacred union partner. But if your body doesn't believe that, because it still has suppressed trauma and emotions and blockages that are physically stuck in the cells, in the DNA, that are running your program that is creating your 3D reality, those manifestations are not going to come to fruition. So this is what Jill and I are going to be teaching you in these workshops, is how the heck do we actually manifest by healing the body.
Hello, beautiful souls. If you are looking to call in your beloved, your king or your queen, or if you're looking to deepen your current relationship into higher levels of love, deeper levels of love, of passion, of intimacy, of true divine sacred union, or even if you're just looking to call in next level abundance, which is highly correlated with the mother wound, which we will be doing healings for in surrendering into sacred union, I invite you to the 8-week portal of surrendering to sacred union, where we are going to go deep into all the distortions that have kept so many people in society from the deepest levels of love and intimacy and passion, and honestly, personal power, and to cultivate the deepest levels of union within yourself, which will affect your business, your relationship, your friendships, the deepest levels of union with Source, aka next level manifestations. I know I had my first $68,000 month after doing deep work on the mother wound and the wound of feeling like it was bad for me to be in my feminine and magnetism, as well as union with a beloved, whether you're already with them and want to deepen it, or whether you are looking to call in your beloved. The link is in the show notes. We start this round on June 15th. Would love, love, love to have you in the course portal if you feel the call. It is lifetime access. It is an amazing community, and it will drastically transform your life.
I just want to bring so much presence to what you said, because we're always manifesting. And like, I mentor people in manifestation, but it's never about, again, telling them. People always just ask me, how do you manifest? And I would like tell them, and it wouldn't work. It only started working when I started doing the somatic work with them, the shamanic breath work, the activations. And this is exactly what we're doing at the workshops. And like, I did a course on this. And so many people came to me and they're like, I've taken every freaking course and whatever. And every single person who took that course, like my course, literally manifested so much and shifted their lives. And why? Because of this work. Because I didn't just teach. Yes, I taught, but I did the shamanic breath work, and I did the activations, and like that was even online. And the power of in person, guys, it's, I don't want to say more powerful, but like we literally do hands-on healing. I have like a bunch of healing tools on my altar over there. Like that is what really, really shifts it. So like we're always manifesting. We are a magnet to everything that our body is already a match to. And if you want to shift what you're a magnet to, it is that somatic work. So thank you for saying that, because I literally don't do affirmations. When people tell me to do that, I'm like, wow, like, no, thank you. Because the body is the unconscious mind. The body is the magnet. We have electromagnetic frequencies. The electrical charges put the intention putting out, and the magnetic is the heart drawing it back. Okay. Again, science. You can measure this. The Heart Math Institute measures it a lot. It's like really cool. Definitely look into that if you're interested in like the science behind it. But I just lost my train of thought. So if you want to shift, I'm going to give a tangible example. So I used to be like deeply in scarcity mindset. Man, guys, I lived off rice and beans. I lived in Harlem in the ghetto. There were shootings like beside me. I'd come home and there'd be like chunks of like the ceiling on the ground, or like our roof was leaking for 2 weeks. Like lived about 2 nightclubs. I literally lived off $30 of groceries a week. And I tried all the mantras, all the manifestation. Sorry, my dog is coming home. If he jumps up, it might be loud for a second. All the manifestation, like rituals, but nothing really shifted. It would like momentarily shift, maybe. Nothing really shifted until I released trauma in the body. And I literally remember like doing a breath work, and I'm like, okay, this memory, I wrote in that memory that I was evil if I had any sort of overflow. The day after I released that trauma, I literally had the biggest revenue day I've ever had. Yeah. It was like more sales, and I didn't actively sell anything than I used to make in a year. And so like, this is the power of this work, and you can do it at every single level. But again, in relationships, if you feel like you were not wanted or rejected when you were a child, if there was a memory of that, you're always going to feel that no matter what your partner, how much attention your partner gives you, or if you're dating and you don't have a partner yet, no matter like what they do, you're always going to feel that way. And you will manifest somebody who literally actually will reject you, because that's your reality. That's your belief. When you shift that, your life can shift in an instant. I have seen it happen over and over again. I've experienced it happen. We've seen it with so many people in ceremonies. Check out the testimonials, guys. There's hundreds. And if you don't know where to find them, just DM one of us. They're on like testimonial tabs, and we have videos as well, just to like share the power of this work. But yeah, we're always manifesting. That's the thing. We're magnets, but we're magnets to our unconscious belief. and the trauma that we're carrying in the body. So it doesn't matter how much you tell yourself like you are abundant. If you don't feel abundant, if your frequency doesn't match abundance, then you won't ever experience that in 3D reality. The 3D reality is the reflection of that. And I believe this is why too, like just presencing like union or relationships or even friendships and like betrayal or like sisterhood wounds, like wow, like if you track back what your mother modeled for you or your caregivers modeled for you, and also like experiences in your childhood with like other women, if you're a woman on here, you'll see exactly your beliefs and why they've continued to occur. And then if you look at, okay, so this is a common one that I see that a lot of people carry. I don't, the belief that, I don't want to say it out loud for me, the belief that it's unsafe to receive. I used to have this. And so like what I literally couldn't receive, I would block abundance. It wasn't just money. It was like gifts, like all the things, compliments, somebody opened my door, I like chop their head off. Like I can open my own fucking door. And then literally I was a bitch. But it came from trauma because I'm like, this isn't safe. This is not safe. Men are dangerous. This is not safe. No, thank you. I'm an independent woman. And so like, of course I had no support in my life. And then it manifested even in the team that I had for my business. And so I had to go back and like clear that from the energy body. And now like I literally have a fucking amazing OBM and like an amazing VA. And it's just like, I'm like, whoa, I can relax and focus on my zone of genius. And this is a thing that I see like a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with as well, is like, oh, I can't be supported. And it's like, well, that's actually trauma and that's a belief system. I just went on a little rant there. Sorry about that.
I think that's such an important point though, is that because that really summarizes one of the biggest pieces that this work really is able to cultivate within our being, and that is recognizing and actually being able to experience that we are safe in our own body. And until we release all of the deeply rooted trauma from childhood, from past lives, that's been passed on through generations and that has been accumulated through this existence, until we release that, we will not feel safe within our own body. And as Jill just expressed, that will manifest in us not being able to receive money, not being able to receive help and support, not being able to receive sacred union and partnership, sacred sexuality, all of these things that we as human beings just innately desire in life. We cannot receive them until we trust in ourselves to hold them. And we cannot create the space to hold those frequencies until we release everything that has been stuck and stored in the body.
100%. And you made such a good point on holding it. Sometimes it'll come in, but then we can't even receive it, or it'll like come and go.
Yeah, and this is when we find ourselves receiving money and then spending it or losing it, or we're dating and we keep dating and dating and dating, and then it keeps falling apart. It's just, these are all patterns, right? And they repeat in all different facets of our lives. And so that is the beauty of this work, is that it might sound really woo-woo what Jill was describing before, how she did a somatic practice and then all of a sudden like that money started flowing and she had the capacity to hold it. But that is how it works. We release it from the body, we release it from the psyche, and then the 3D reality shifts.
100%. And it's like sometimes like there'll be an opportunity, whether it's like an abundance opportunity of like a business deal, and if you have that trauma in your body, like it'll be like literally right here, like right there offered to you, and you won't be able to accept it, or you'll sabotage it. Or like relationship, it's like, oh no, like, oh, and I could talk forever about relationships and how programmed we are into distortion and manipulation, but like it could be right there and you're like, oh no, that doesn't align with my belief system. I believe that I'm always rejected, so therefore I have to always be rejected. Like this is, or like I said, men are unsafe. So, okay, let's always manifest a partner that is in some way abusive. That was my past reality. It is no longer. But so, and like I said, I shifted that actually in Sedona during our shamanic training. I really want to bridge this with what you said about the trauma and the fear. So there is a lot of false light. Oh my God, and my throat just like was like, I've been wanting to talk about this forever. And again, I feel like another conversations, maybe we'll do a podcast on this as well, is needed around this. This is so important, guys, because we can only be, when we have trauma, our auric field gets permeable there, okay? So it's like these energetic cords can attach to us and like puppeteer us and draw us, allure us into things that are maybe not in alignment. I talked about this actually in a podcast that we did where some of my traumas were coming up, and it was like I was noticing that there was like allures that were not in alignment that I wanted to do. And this is getting a little bit more woo, because there are other energies on this planet, and it's false light that preach that they're helping you, but they're actually keeping you trapped. I had a car given to me, my parents, when I was in need. It was stolen 2 weeks later. Exactly. I hadn't been able to accept it. After that, I truly owned it, and it came back to me 2 weeks later. This is a prime example of when it's like, oh, I feel guilty for receiving. By the way, that's correlated with the slave code, which we'll get to after, which is a false light template. It's a fallen light template. But it's like we feel guilty to receive because we think that there's like actually limited, bring on the woo, we're here for it. Fucking love you guys. I love my community, our community. And so I just lost my train of thought again. So the trauma, when we haven't released it, we can be controlled. And I will say, like, there are a lot of spiritual communities, and I had to learn this the hard way. Oh my goodness. Where you'll be lured into them based on your trauma, and they don't have your best interest at mind. This is not all spiritual communities, but wow, it is way more common than I would love to believe. And the only way they can do that is when we're disconnected from our intuition and we're disconnected from truth. And a good red flag to like look out for is like, are they willing to look? Is the leader or is the facilitator willing to look at their own stuff? Have they worked through their own stuff? And are they continuing to work through their own stuff? Do they have a mentor? Have they studied? If not, like, red flags. And how do they feel when people leave the community? So that's another reason it's so important to transmute your trauma, because you are controllable. And if you're not spiritual, this goes for like other systems and structures, corporate structures. How many corporate structures are like this like tiered system of like, I gotta get up, I gotta be at the top. And then people get to the top running by trauma. You can get to the top. I don't even like that word because there is no hierarchy. Like, that's all false light, by the way. We all have our own gifts and we all have things to offer, and they're all different. And that's where co-creation comes in. But to get to the top and like sacrificing slave code, their family, sacrificing their health, sacrificing all the moments of their life, and then they get to the top and they're like, whoa, this isn't it. And then they go through a dark night of the soul and they're like, or they look back on their whole life at the end on their deathbed and they're like, wow, I spent no time with my family. I sacrificed my health. I did things that maybe weren't in alignment. Maybe they've done like a lot of drugs or like we're drinking all the time, and I'm not judging any of these things. I'm just saying these are very real if you look at like corporate structures even. And the reason we can be controlled to things that aren't fully in alignment is because of trauma. So say there's like a man, for example, who's like, okay, I have this trauma and I need to be the best because I felt unworthy as a kid, or I need to prove myself to my father and I never got his approval. And no matter what he does, he'll never actually get his approval because the approval has to come from within. How do you do that? You realize that you are actually God's first universe and you are worthy because you have transmuted those layers of trauma. So he works his whole life. He has a family. Maybe he cheats on his wife, feels guilty about it, or maybe he's doing drugs all the time. Maybe he's not doing that, but he just doesn't spend time with his children. And then he gets to the top, and then eventually he looks back on his life and he's like, I actually missed living. I actually missed living. Or maybe there's somebody with another false light template is scarcity or settling, and they have like, they're a beautiful artist and they're supposed to paint like phenomenal paintings. There's an artist I'm thinking of and her name escaped me. Autumn Sky. Oh my God, if you haven't seen her artwork, it is stunning. But they never actually do that because they end up being like a bank teller, which they hate, or working at Starbucks, which they hate, and their soul is like trying to wake them up. It's like, it's being like, hey, like nudging. But because of the programming, we have free will. The programming of, oh, I need to settle and I need to, there is scarcity, so I cannot leave this like minimum paying job because it's providing for me, when really we're supposed to be doing this thing. That's what actually keeps them trapped, and that's what keeps them from abundance. It is the fear. And that these structures and these distortions that we are taught and programmed into in so many ways, like the school system, music, movies, the media, like all of that stuff can only control us when we actually haven't come home to ourselves. When we've come home to ourselves, when we're in our body, when we've transmuted these layers of trauma, we're not controllable. That's when we're connected to our soul. That's when we're connected to our intuition. And like, I thought getting into like the spiritual work, the spiritual community, the healing, like I've had some amazing teachers. Do not get me wrong. I've had some amazing teachers. And then, wow, I've had some other ones or other mentors that I'm like, you are not based in the frequency of love. When I got like closer to them and really saw behind the veil, I'm like, this is literally the same government structure, the same corporate structure of let's take advantage of those people who have deep trauma or have trauma. We all have trauma, by the way, either big T or little t. And like literally siphon their energy, whether it's like siphoning all their money or whether it's siphoning their sexual energy or what, like whatever it is. Be cautious of that, guys. Anyways, because it's very real and it's not cool. But it's like, it's the same structure, and the only way to escape that matrix, or the matrix of more, or the matrix of lust, or the matrix of all these things that actually aren't serving your higher purpose, your soul purpose, what your soul really wants, is because you haven't transmuted the trauma. And there's lots of holes in your auric field. Therefore, you're very manipulatable. Yes, the ego is tricky. The ego is so tricky. And the ego literally has to die in the process. Like a shamanic death is an ego death. It's the death of the old self, of these paradigms that had been creating your reality. I just went through on a few weeks ago, a lot of my community knows, like, wow, it was intense. There's still like bits I'm going through, but it's like the amount of love that I can now hold, the amount of presence of like small moments that I'm now experiencing, like, and the amount of light in my body, I'm like, whoa, I didn't know this was possible. And it was a deep trauma that I hadn't actually healed or transmuted. And once I did, like, you know, that paradigm, that reality had to fall apart because it wasn't based in the frequency of coherence and of love. And these are so hidden, guys. These are in our shadow so often, like so deep in our shadow, we can't see them. So when they show up, when the triggers show up, that's our access point to actually go in and heal it.
Hello, beautiful souls. If you are looking to call in your beloved, your king or your queen, or if you're looking to deepen your current relationship into higher levels of love, deeper levels of love, of passion, of intimacy, of true divine sacred union, or even if you're just looking to call in next level abundance, which is highly correlated with the mother wound, which we will be doing healings for in surrendering into sacred union, I invite you to the 8-week portal of surrendering to sacred union, where we are going to go deep into all the distortions that have kept so many people in society from the deepest levels of love and intimacy and passion. And honestly, personal power, and to cultivate the deepest levels of union within yourself, which will affect your business, your relationship, your friendships, the deepest levels of union with Source, aka next level manifestations. I know I had my first $68,000 month after doing deep work on the mother wound and the wound of feeling like it was bad for me to be in my feminine and magnetism, as well as union with a beloved, whether you're already with them and want to deepen it, or whether you are looking to call in your beloved. The link is in the show notes. We start this round on June 15th. Would love, love, love to have you in the course portal if you feel the call. It is lifetime access. It is an amazing community, and it will drastically transform your life.
I want to catapult off of a few things that you said. So one of them being this reality, unfortunately, in the spiritual industry, that sometimes it becomes very similar to the proverbial matrix of the 3D realm, where certain communities, certain modalities, certain retreats, what have you, they draw you in based on your pain points. This is a sales marketing tactic, is speak to people's pain points, and they draw you in. And then what they do is they feed off of your trauma and your pain points, and they keep you in a cycle. And so I really want to speak to this because the work that Jill and I do, and these events that we're going to be offering here at the end of the month, our intention is to liberate you. Our intention is to give you the tools so that you walk away as a sovereign being, and you don't feel like you have to continue coming back to these events time and time again, coming back to retreats time and time again, seeking mentorship time and time again. And yes, I definitely believe that we all need a mentor, and that our mentors will shift and change as we grow and evolve. I believe you should always have a mentor of some form. And I also believe that anyone that you work with, any mentor, anyone facilitating any sort of event or healing modality, their goal should be to get you to a point where you can walk away from that modality, from that mentorship, from that training, feeling like, okay, I understand this now. I've healed these parts of me. I've released this from my body, and I can now step into a new frequency of being instead of keeping you in that hierarchical paradigm, that matrix cyclical reality where you just continue spinning in loops. And so I really appreciate you bringing that to the forefront. And I just really want to emphasize that, because I also find that you mentioned at the end the triggers and the resistance points. So again, something when we dive into this work, and even with these events that Jill and I are offering, so at the end of the month, we have 2 upcoming events. They're 3 hours in length each, and they're intense. And some people are like, oh, well, why is it 3 hours long? Or why is it 2 days in a row? Or why does it cost this much? And these are triggers, right? These are things that come up for us when we start doing the deeper work is, oh, I can't afford this, or, oh, I don't have the time. And this is the old self speaking, right? Like this is the part of us that is going, oh God, that shift that you're about to make, that's freaking terrifying. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. And so we come up with these excuses. I can't afford it. I don't have the time. And these things we need to look at as an investment into ourselves and into our life. When we invest, it is an energetic exchange, whether that's an investment of time, of energy, of money. And you get out of things what you put in. So acknowledging that with discernment, obviously, I'm not saying go purchase the $30,000 course from the facilitator who is perpetuating this false light frequency of keeping you in those trauma cycles. Have discernment and acknowledge, okay, who is facilitating this? What are they offering? What am I potentially going to get out of this? And know that your energetic investment of time, of money, of yourself, that is what is going to reflect in what you take out of it.
100%. Thank you. I love what you said because, well, so many pieces of it. Like, I agree. I feel like we should, if we really want to grow and evolve, always have a mentor. But it should be to the point of like, hey, I got what I needed from that mentor, especially if they're, I mean, your mentor should always be evolving. But like, I've had many different mentors, and for different things at different points. And they should always empower you. Like, I want to give just acknowledgement to Anahata, our shamanic teacher, because she was the first teacher that I had, and kind of mentor, I guess, as well, who was like really into empowering us instead of keeping us trapped. And it was kind of scary because she's like, okay, now like go. And we're like, wait, what? We just learned so many things. And she's like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm like, go do it, go apply it, please put it into practice.
It allowed our gifts to like, and we were disasters the first time. We were like, but then it allowed our gifts to really like bloom. That's what a good mentor should do. They should be empowering you so that you can even outgrow them.
Absolutely. And I love that piece too. I just wanted to say a good mentor is going to trigger the fuck out of you, pardon my French. But if you feel triggered by who you're working with, and again, there's a discernment piece here, like triggers can sometimes be also red flags, but triggers are always doorways into our healing, right? So a good mentor is going to challenge you to the point where sometimes you want to say, like, I don't even want to talk to you right now, right? Like a good mentor is going to push you to your edge and invite you to push past that edge.
100%. And that's where the growth happens. It never happens in the zone of comfort. I also really want to bring presence to something else you said, which was so good. There is an energetic exchange. So like every single time, guys, I have given people like discounts, like huge discounts on things, or have gifted, their transformation has been like minimal. And every single time people have like fully invested, their lives change. And I know the same is true for me. If somebody gives me something, I'm like, okay, cool, thank you. But I don't have that energetic exchange and that decision. And like back to the money trauma thing, like I literally remember it was during COVID. I had no income. I was living off my savings. It was very quickly depleting. And I made a decision. I found a mentor, a teacher, and a healer. She's my second healing teacher. I'm still in touch with her today, still work with her sometimes. If you don't pay attention. We don't go all in 100%. So when you make that commitment, there is that will, it is that intention. And that's where the transformation comes. It's an energetic commitment, like also to the universe. And so I didn't have the money to fly across the world to Cyprus. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, but I knew I needed to go. I knew I needed to go. And so, I literally declared to the universe, like, I'm going. And I rollerbladed the seawall twice crying. And I kid you not, once I made that decision, and I've done this many, many times, like with other events I wanted to go to, or I just did this last week with another mentor who, like, I actually don't have in my business right now the 6 months, the amount it is for 6 months, but I know it's going to come because I know working with her, there's key codes that I really desire. And so it's like, I'm not in fear about it. I just made the decision and the universe will provide. But like, this was the first time it really happened. I made that decision to go to Cyprus. I kid you not, 24 hours of that and like fully surrendering and bawling my eyes out to the universe. Like, I got an acting check from a commercial a year and a half prior, the buyout, that paid for my trip. This is when we choose and the universe is like, provides. Also, the price point, just so you know, like anybody who really is like, I want to go can afford it. It's for both events, it's 288 USD, which, like, to change your life, that is literally nothing. You probably spend more on that on Starbucks in a month or in a week. Yeah. Just saying, what do you value? That's where you put your money. So it's not even like it's like a really big investment. For some of you, yeah, it will be an investment. For some of you, it'll be like a dinner out. Like, but there is that you need to have an investment where it's like, okay, I'm actually going to put my energy into this. And then one other thing you said that was so good. I just want to, yeah, these structures that keep you trapped instead of empowering you. So just like some red flags, like to look out for, like, is this person happy when you start to thrive? I have many clients who are like thriving. I don't want to say more than me, but like in some essence, I'm like, shit, amazing. Like, you're inspiring me. And like hearing some of the stories, I'm like, wow, like I'm so inspired. Like, I'm going to like put more intention or whatever. Like, it should be them celebrating you. On a lot of like groups, there is a frequency. It's like a frequency fence. So you actually can't go past that point when you're in that. And that's why a lot of these structures will be like really angry if you try and leave. Wow, I have dealt with it. It is not pretty. Wow, it's like shocking actually. But that's just something to like look out for. Is this person happy when I'm thriving, or do they get like jealous even though they're my mentor or they're a facilitator? It's so important to pay attention to these things. It's so important. Does anybody have any questions, by the way, in the chat? I love your comments. Sorry, I couldn't answer. We couldn't answer.
If anybody does have any questions, obviously we'll answer them. I just wanted to just name one more thing with the trigger points and with what you are bringing to the forefront here with, like, when we actually decide to take the leap and make an investment in ourselves. I know it can be so scary to trust in this concept, but the universe supports us. When we are making a decision that is aligned with our soul and in favor of our evolution, our growth, and our healing, the universe supports us. And it seems paradoxical because I hear all the time people say, oh, well, I got to figure it out. Like, I got to figure out where the money is going to come from, or I have to figure out how I'm going to make the time. And that is the monkey mind. That's the human psyche that's been conditioned by the matrix to keep us stuck in these cycles, right? Whereas when you actually say, okay, you know what? This is important to me, my healing, my growth, my evolution, this advancement in my business, in my health, in whatever X may be. this is important to me. And so I am going to make it happen, and I'm going to ask the universe to support me in that, and I'm going to trust in that. So I'm going to make the investment. That is when we receive in return everything that will support us in that decision. And I had a very similar circumstance happen to the one that you described, Jill, when I invested in Anahata's training. That was during COVID, when I had no job anymore, had left the hospital, was also living off of my savings. And the investment I made in Anahata's course was, I think, like 80% of my savings. And I had no idea. I was like, okay, cool. So I have like very little money now to live off of. I have no idea how I'm going to make this work. But something deep inside me also knows that this is a non-negotiable for my growth and my healing. So I'm going to trust. And then all of a sudden, the universe just started, here you go, here you go, here you go. Here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity. Here's money. Here's money you weren't expecting. Here's an opportunity. Here's a job. Here's this. Here's a connection. And that is how this work works, is when we invest in ourselves and we trust in the process and we make decisions that are in alignment with our highest good, we are divinely supported. And again, I know that sounds woo-woo to those of you who haven't experienced it, but my invitation for you is to open yourself to experiencing it.
100%. That's so beautiful. Like this quote, a client told me this: let God and let go. So if like you feel like, oh, I want to come, and if you don't live in Calgary, even more perfect. We've had people fly out before. I've flown out for things before. I mean, I just did it last weekend, but I don't even live in Calgary either, guys. I'm flying out for this too. FYI. Let God and let go. Let God and let go. So it's like that energy of, this can be for anything that's like, this is so in alignment and I don't know, like that's faith. It's like making that choice, not like, oh, if it shows up. No, you make the choice and it's like, I am doing this and I don't know how. And then you let God provide. And it's scary, guys. I get it. It's not like, oh, but that's where the growth happens. It's on the other side of that discomfort. It's on the other side of having that conversation. It's the same thing. You're training your nervous system. I would love to like share a few stories of people who came to our events, if that feels in alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you wrap up with a few stories? We're almost at an hour here, so I don't want to go too over time.
Okay.
But yeah, why don't you share a few stories? And then if anybody has any questions, they want to pop in the chat in the meantime. For people who joined after we kind of introduced ourselves and did the little intro, so this conversation is just to shine a light on a lot of the subjects that Jill and I will be discussing, diving deep into, and then giving you the tools to move through and actually make transformative shifts in your life in our events at the end of the month on the 29th and 30th of June. So if you're listening and this has sparked your interest, please reach out to one of us after this live. Send us a DM or comment. The live will be posted on both of our pages as well. So send us a comment, reach out to us, and let's chat. And we are just honestly so excited for these events. So Jill, why don't you go ahead and share some stories, some testimonials from our previous events, and then we'll wrap up if nobody has any questions.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. I literally just forgot this. I think it's super important. So the first day, it's 180. If you only want to come to one, highly recommend coming to both, to be honest. The first day is our shamanic breath work, which is what we studied. It's deep somatic healing to really release a lot of these things. The second day is Sarah's going to be playing sound bowl. She is phenomenal. And then I'm going to be doing an energy healing, and there's my dog. Hi, little dude. An energy transmission and activation. So the first one, it's on abundance. So it's clearing these slave codes that have kept you from greater levels of abundance, whether that's in health, wealth, relationships. If you have like scarcity mindset, or if you feel like you've been settling for less than your soul's desired, or if you feel like you've had to sacrifice so much, or that you've suffered, these are all slave codes, and they're programmed into us by guilt. So we're going to be illuminating those, clearing them. And then as she's playing the bowls, I'm going to be calling in or doing an abundance activation to call in greater levels of abundance. And like, I'll share a couple stories on that first. Like, these activations are so powerful. I literally have had clients like $20,000 literally in like the next day, like out of nowhere. Whoever did this so much. Or like unexpected sources. Yeah. And I mean, I shared my story with abundance, and then we'll go to the breath work. I've had people like feel like, oh, like in dating, there's like not a lot of options, or like acting. Used to be an actor. I've worked with a few actors, and like, oh, like there's only so many acting roles. And when they've shifted that energetically, all of a sudden all these auditions come, or all of a sudden like a major freaking producer is contacting them. Like, that happened, and I'm like, holy shit, this is so cool. Or like all of a sudden they realize, oh, there are like so many like an abundance of people to date. I don't have to be like attached to this like one person that I've gone on 2 dates with, or like, you know, they didn't call me back. It's like this mindset of like scarcity, and it's just not true. It's not true for money, it's not true for jobs, it's not true for clients, it's not true for opportunities. And we only want the things that are in highest alignment, whether it's a client, a job, a partner, friends, in any event. And then with the shamanic breath work, wow. I remember like our first one, I think it was one of our first ceremonies when we toured Calgary and Vancouver. We literally had women who were in like abusive marriages leave the marriage like that night, start their own business, like now freaking like in a beautiful union with somebody else, and like runs her own business. We've had people I remember one in Sedona who like he couldn't grieve his mom's death because he had all this resentment towards her. And as we helped him release that anger, then he experienced the grief, and then he was like, I've never felt so much love in my entire life, which later shifted all his relationships. Because if we're harboring negative energy, like to any women, for example, or any man, we're harboring that to all men or to all women, FYI. If you're have that towards one
as a whole.
Yeah, it's towards the whole. Which is why if you have like resentment towards your father, you'll have that towards like your romantic partner, if it's a dude, if you're a woman, or vice versa. So anyways, we've also had people, sorry, my dog is doing a little show here. We've also had people, like health issues, been struggling with health issues for God knows how long, which is directly correlated with trauma. Yeah, and like all of a sudden the symptoms like vanished, or people who hadn't had their period in over a year and got it during the event because they were releasing trauma.
Infertility is a big one.
Infertility.
Oh yeah. Traumatic experiencing women who can't get pregnant, and then all of a sudden, oh shocker, you release the trauma from your body, and then now we are pregnant. Or people who are dealing with chronic migraines, chronic fatigue, all of these health symptoms that we just throw Band-Aid solutions on with pharmaceuticals, and then all of a sudden we actually learn that the healing resides within our body, and we are empowered to release everything that has been stuck and suppressed within our own being. And then all of a sudden, oh wow, my periods are normal. Oh wow, I don't have headaches anymore. Oh wow, I actually sleep at night. Oh wow, I'm losing weight. Weight loss is also a massive one when you start processing trauma. And like Lane Norton and all of these biohackers are probably going to really argue with me on this, but it's not calories in, calories out, you guys. I'm sorry, it's not. So much of it is to do with the trauma and the emotions that are stuck in your body. I've experienced this myself. Weight just literally falling off my body when I release something energetically, because your body is physically holding on to that proverbial weight of the energy, of the emotion, of the trauma. And we could go on for days, and we will dive 100%. Into all of this in the seminar that we're doing at the end of the month. But honestly, the results that you are able to experience when you do work like this, they're endless, they're infinite, and your potential is infinite. And that is what we want you to experience. And what, Jill, you were saying before about how any good facilitator or mentor, they want to see you thrive. We want you to leave these events and go forth in your life and flourish in your business, in your health, in your relationships. We want to see you win and thriving in your life. That is what brings us the utmost joy.
100%. Laura just said, I'm losing weight since your retreat, Jill. Yeah, it's energetic. I literally remember I had a private client when I used to do things in my apartment. He lost 8 pounds after one shamanic breathwork ceremony because a lot of weight it's energetic, it's trauma. I just want to say 2 more stories. A woman at an event, she manifested like 5 job offers miraculously, like in alignment with her intention, like 2 days after, maybe it was a day after. It was crazy. We've had people like leave their old corporate jobs and start their own business, leave toxic relationships that they couldn't walk away from, and like manifest beautiful partnerships. So like, because anything we're saying yes to in our life that isn't fully in alignment, we're blocking what actually is, and we're tolerating that. So I mean, there's countless stories. DM us if you can't find the testimonials. I have a lot on my page. I have a testimonial page you can look at. There's a bunch of videos on there as well from people from past events. I'm just like remembering Chris's video. I'm so proud. Chris, if you watch
one of my favorites ever after our first ceremony. Okay, we should wrap things up. We've been rambling for a really long time. I put, as Jill was speaking, I put miraculous in parentheses if you were watching me, because I deeply believe that every single one of us is capable and worthy of experiencing a life of magic and miracles. I believe that magic and miracles are available to us in every day, in every waking moment. And so I truly hope that each and every one of you who decides to reach out to us, to work with us, to come to these events, to work with us in any way, shape, or form, I really hope that you leave whatever event or mentorship or retreat or program that you decide to attend. I really hope that you leave being able to finally experience that life of magic and miracles. So for all of you who tuned in today, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for listening to our tangents and our rants. And yeah, we can't wait to see you at the end of June. We're super excited. Can't wait to be reunited with you, Jill.
So excited. So excited. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me or having me.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody who joined. We really, really appreciate you taking the time. Our time is our most valuable resource. So yeah, thank you so much. And we're looking forward to seeing the beautiful souls who join in Calgary. There is limited spots. So yeah, if you are like, yes, please sign up right away. Finally got a working link this morning. Sorry. Tech issues. And if you have questions, we're happy to answer any. And I say from the bottom of my heart, like Sarah said, like we want you to thrive. There is no competition. Like how this world gets better is everybody being liberated to do what their soul purpose is. Obviously, this is the big part of our soul purpose. We were called to this work for a reason, and it is to facilitate the shifts and transformation in people who have different gifts, and everybody has their own gifts. And even if you're a healer, it's like you have a different gift. So go like allow yourself to process whatever's been stopping you from using it, so like we can live in a more magical world and more people can experience the abundance of magic and of love.
You're not just doing this work for you. You're doing this work for the collective. Mm-hmm. So,
and your lineage.
Yes, collective and your lineage. So this is your invitation to come join us. Yeah. And even if you just joined the live, hopefully you took something empowering away from this. We love you all. Have a superb day, and we'll chat with you soon.
I hope you enjoyed that podcast. So we have linked in the show notes below the information to Sarah and I's events in Calgary. We hope to see you there. They're only $288 for both. and it will literally change your life. It will literally change so much in your life, transform you, to expand you to greater levels of abundance in all areas: health, wealth, relationships. It will help you clear addictions through the shamanic breath work and so much more, as well as the link to my free masterclass on June 15th on Sacred Union. So without further ado, I hope you have the most amazing day, and hopefully we'll see you in Calgary.